Welcome to ASRS's Journal of VitreoRetinal Diseases Authors Forum. I'm your host, Dr. Timothy Murray, Editor-in-Chief of JVRD. On each episode of the JVRD Authors Forum, I will interview innovative retinal researchers on their studies featured only in JVRD and how these studies will impact our patients' care in our clinics. Tune in to hear directly from investigators about the clinical implications of the newest and highest quality research in the field of retina. Welcome, I'm Dr. Timothy Murray, Editor-in-Chief for the JVRD Journal of the American Society of Retina Specialists. It's my pleasure to be joined on our Authors Forum podcast by Dr. Ivan Suñer, who is the Managing Partner and CEO of Retina Associates of Florida. Ivan, welcome and thank you for sharing your paper, Coring of Intravitreal Medication Vial Stoppers, a report from the ReST committee.
Thank you very much, Tim. It's really a pleasure to join you on this, I think, important paper. This all actually came about with several reports that came to the Research and Safety and Therapeutics Committee that, of course, is spearheaded by Andrew Witkin. And these reports came in of several episodes of vials that the retina specialist noted had a black material on the vial wall. And again, part of this is important because it's the hypervigilance of our members that has led to some of these discoveries of some of these therapeutics have been causing adverse events. So I think, again, back to the members being very aware of this as well as a committee. And so we got several of these reports from different medications, not just one medication. And so these were sent out for evaluation. And in the end, fortunately, there were no adverse events. And it turned out that what appeared to be a fungus infection was not. It was actually the rubber stopper material that was on the vial wall. And so this is something called coring, which is a new term for us in ophthalmology, but actually has been seen a lot in, for example, the anesthesia literature as people use, again, vials that have rubber stoppers and the material can become lodged either within the needle itself, or in this case, the vial wall. And that's how this all came about.
Well, first of all, and thank you, because I believe that the ReST committee has really been a pivotal committee within the structure of ASRS. And it's been unique because, as you alluded to, our members are comfortable when there is a potential concern to reach out to the committee to discuss things that appear to be unusual, infection risk, inflammation, and in this case, this unusual deposit. And I think the idea that this first would be potentially a fungus is kind of key, right?
Certainly.
So that's it. But coring was interesting because the concept in some of these, in fact, one of the things I got today was one of these new packaging needles that doesn't have a sharp tip. And the idea is that it's safer to put that dull needle in, and it lowers the potential risk of an inadvertent needle stick. But for us, it could be just the opposite because those needle cores are large, and it does have the potential, at least in my experience, instead of displacing the stopper, it can core the stopper.
That's exactly right. And actually, what prompted this, again, looking at these events, was looking at the other literature, what's already been seen in other literature. And again, as you're alluding to, this coring material is part of the rubber stopper, and different factors can contribute to this. It's very important because in, for example, anesthesia, this could lead to this rubber material then going up someone's vein and resulting in embolism to the lungs, the brain, blocking veins, for example. And so you're right. And some of the things that we looked at in the literature were some of the factors that contribute to this. And you're exactly right that the needle is one of these critical factors. And the idea of having a blunt needle, well, it makes sense in terms of safety of getting stuck. That's not really a problem in our situation. We're basically drawing from a vial. However, that showed a much larger instance of coring. In fact, in one of the studies comparing blunt to sharp needles, the incidence of coring was 40% compared to 4%. So again, that was one of the key factors in coring is it a blunt needle or a sharp needle? Some even use plastic needles, and that also seemed to be a higher rate of coring compared to steel. And of course, a large bore needle compared to a smaller bore needle as well. Other factors that we saw in the literature were the stopper, the stopper material. So if it's a very thick rubber stopper, that can also be more likely to core, as well as if it's a multi-dose vial compared to a single dose vial like we typically use.
Well, one of the things that always brings up to me is this concept of unintended consequences. So here you have someone thinking they're going to lower risk or manage risk. And in fact, what it does is it shifts risk in a way that was unexpected.
Sure.
I think you and I have seen that. We've been practicing long enough where people think they're going to help a potential problem. And then from the user perspective, it actually makes things worse. So nice that it was identified. Nice it wasn't something related to an infectious etiology. Nice that we understand. But give us some of the take home now that we can recognize that. What do we do?
Yeah, so the most important thing, and this was very clear, is a manual or visual inspection of the vial before and after the injection procedure. You want to make sure that before you put a needle in somebody's eye, that vial you drew from is intact, both before and after drawing from that vial. You do want to use a filter needle, as you described before. That's very important because these filter needles can prevent some of this coring material from being drawn into the syringe. The typical filter needle is about a 5-micron filter, and that's very helpful to prevent that. You also want to wipe the vial stopper before and after with alcohol to, again, reduce the incidence of contamination into the vial, then also when you draw from the needle. And when available, usually these will bring a needle kit with it. You want to use that needle kit. Typically, it's a good filter needle made of steel that has, again, the bore isn't too dull, and so you can get easy entry in and out. And so those are the main recommendations from looking at the cumulative data from across medicine. But beyond that, it's also clear that as these medications are released, initially they come in a vial, but eventually they go to a prefilled syringe. And that probably is the safest one in terms of avoiding this potential risk of coring. And of course, there's also the risk of endophthalmitis likely is lower with these prefilled syringes. Luckily, again, we've seen no ultimately safety events with this coring process, but it is something to be aware of and make sure that when we're injecting these patients with these single dose vials, we inspect the vial before and after to ensure this event hasn't occurred.
So one of the things too is that many of us get pre-filled syringes and then we attach a needle ourselves. Do you think in an ideal world, the pre-filled syringe would include a pre-attached needle that's in such a way that there's never anything but the removal and the injection process?
Yes, that would be ideal. Again, eliminating safety risks for our patients. And we saw this, we're old enough to remember the days of Macugen when it all came together in one. I mean, for all the knocks on that needle is, again, a system that was built on safety. And that probably is the ideal that we should be working towards to minimizing any safety concerns in these procedures.
I think we really addressed this well, and I think the concept of pre-filled syringes makes logical sense to our membership, as long as we're in a position that we make financial sense for the practice and our members also. But beyond this, I mean, do you see a concern? Because I feel like we understand this now, but I also think that this really, in a very, very strong manner, just highlights how important ASRS and its ReST committee are, not just for our members, but this report goes broadly, even for people that don't participate within ASRS. What are your thoughts on the role of the ReST committee?
That's a great point, Tim. And again, it's brought to light many of these concerns that occur. I mean, I think these medications obtain FDA approval and they're released into the general population for us to use. But it's these reports that come to the ReST committee that help bring this to light and help us investigate, again, the true safety of these medications and the procedures we're performing. And so I think knowing the members feel safe reporting to the ReST committee that this will be for the greater good of medicine and our patients, I think is a very important point to make, that again, that venue is available for this exact same process to help ensure our patients' safety.
Well, Dr. Suñer, I want to thank you for joining us on JVRD's Author Forum podcast. It's a pleasure to speak with you like it always is. Fellow Floridians, but I miss you down in Miami.
Hey, my pleasure, Tim. It's always a pleasure. You take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the JVRD Authors Forum. You can watch and listen to more episodes on the ASRS YouTube channel and on popular podcast directories, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Visit www.asrs.org/JVRD forum on the ASRS website to learn more. See you soon.